Hey Changemakers, it's Julia Chow. Welcome back to my channel. It's amazing how the mass media is the biggest brainwashing system in our society. Mass media meaning pop music, Hollywood, you get the idea. Recently, I rewatched one of my all-time favorite movies, Devil Wears Prada. How many of you have watched that movie? When I first watched the movie, it actually came out when I was in my early 20s. So the memory that I have of watching the movie and loving it versus now where I am, and you see my content all the time of all the things I'm teaching about power dynamics, power hierarchy, and the complex power play, capitalism, patriarchy, racism, and the privilege and oppressions and the oppressed becoming more privileged and how to do that. That's all of my content. So seeing it from that perspective, it completely changed how I see and feel about this movie. In a nutshell, this movie is geared towards the good girls in our society. It's meant to be a feel-good validation for the good girls to keep staying oppressed and do what they're doing. I'm not going to go too much into the complexities of the plot. Not that the plot is that complex. It's a pretty simple plot and it's a simple story that is easy to digest. But basically, we've got Andy, who is a writer, a journalist, and she gets a job at what we would consider high-profile fashion magazine, an equivalent of Vogue magazine. And actually, right now, I can't remember the name of the magazine in the movie. But basically, this magazine is like Vogue magazine, and the boss is supposed to be like Anna Wintour, a very accomplished, high-profile fashion editor who is really difficult to work for. Like in every workplace, there's competition. Andy has to deal with Emily, who is somewhat superior to her as she's been there longer, so she has a bit of seniority. Emily does the nicer type of receptionist assistant work, and Andy has to do the really tough, nitty-gritty, messy kind of assistant work. Andy doesn't even understand fashion. She doesn't care for it, but she's there for a good opportunity, which is actually the right idea. She's putting in the grind. She's gonna put in the hustle, the work to get the experience that she needs so she can go where she wants to go. After all, having a good reputation company in your resume is going to get you places. She makes up her lack of understanding of fashion and interest with competence and intelligence. Now, there are several things I want to address before we really get into the capitalism, competitiveness, and why this movie is geared towards good girls and what you actually need to do to be the bad bitch in Andy's situation and what probably would have happened in a real world situation if this movie weren't a movie. Andy has these friends, and all of you have these friends who are not that accomplished. Her boyfriend is a cook at a restaurant. I don't even know how they're living in a New York apartment with that salary because obviously Andy isn't getting paid that much. And in fact, in the beginning of the movie, she didn't really have a job and she gets this new role. Her boyfriend is a cook. All her friends are sort of in that starter position, except for maybe that one person, the guy who seems to really understand fashion and even knows the existence of Andy's boss and knows the celebrity that she is. And then she's got that artist friend, I'm just gonna say it, she's the token black woman in this white movie who seems to be somewhat accomplished or on her way to something. But all of these friends have an intensely scarcity geared mindset. They don't like capitalism and they see Andy as a sellout. Especially as she starts to become more accomplished, the relationships that she has with these friends starts to become a problem. Except wait, when Andy starts to get free things from her workplace because they're giving away designer things that just come with the job, the friends have no problem taking advantage of Andy's giving nature. Where in fact, if I were her, I would sell those items on eBay and make bank, but Andy just gives them away to these friends who are not supportive of her, who makes her feel awful about being this driven person and having ambition to accomplish and build her career. They basically constantly shame her as being a sellout. And as she becomes more and more involved in the workplace, she gets more involved and starts building relationships with people, and she starts to have that with ambition. The competition comes in, and she eventually goes to Paris Fashion Week. During this buildup of Andy actually becoming accomplished and known and significant in her career, her friends, her boyfriends start to look down on her for her dressing better, becoming involved and caring about her work. Basically, these friends are her downfall. She wants to stay broke, poor, and being a good person who isn't good after all. Being some kind of social justice warrior while wanting to be accomplished in a capitalistic world, which is a complete paradox and a contradiction to start in the first place. These friends are shaming her rather than helping her and encouraging her to achieve more. And it seems like most of these friends don't really have goals beyond where they are at, because capitalism is this big bad thing that you shouldn't opt into and you should never sell out. So that's the mindset that she's surrounded by. And of course, as she grows more accomplished and more business minded, the relationship that she has with her boyfriend starts to fall apart. He is a server. Nothing wrong with servers, but he's not fighting to become the best server, a great chef, and become more accomplished and grow into something. We don't really see that in the movie. Then we have the whole situation between Andy and Emily, her co-worker, who's smidgen more superior over Andy. She really cares about fashion and she wants to make it. Andy doesn't really care about fashion. This is just a stepping stone. But of course, in every place where humans congregate, there's a power dynamic. And if Andy wants to make it, she has to overthrow Emily. Andy pretends like she's a good person, but is she really a good person when she is ambitious? Can she remain to be the good person that she wants to be? Because Emily is so committed to fashion and this industry, to prepare for Paris Fashion Week, where she can network with a lot of great, successful people in the fashion industry, she stops eating, and that becomes a problem where her performance becomes affected, and then she eventually ends up catching a really bad cold. In addition, because of her attachment to the outcome, she makes a lot of blunders, and this becomes noticed by the boss. Her name is Miranda Priestley. I hadn't mentioned that yet. Played by the amazing Meryl Streep. So then, Andy, the newbie, ends up going to Paris Fashion Week, partly because she had better professionalism, while still being evident that the boss enjoys the power play between them, getting them to compete against each other, especially because Emily is so obvious when it comes to wanting to conquer and achieve her ambitious goals. Her own boss becomes the counterforce for Emily. Miranda decides last minute that Andy's gonna be the one coming to Paris Fashion Week with her. Then, to make matters worse, Emily gets into a car accident. Now she's hospitalized and she really cannot go. In Paris Fashion Week, we get to see more of Miranda's power play in this highly competitive, cutthroat industry. Andy finds out through her network and through her interpersonal experiences that her boss is to be overthrown from her position by a younger and up-and-coming editor-in-chief. But Miranda is way too savvy for that. Andy has done a great deal to try to warn her, but it turns out she already saw this coming and took care of it herself, very socially elegantly, by offering a better position to her competitor, which in turn ends up screwing her most loyal and competent subordinate, Nigel, who was actually aiming to take on that position that she gave her competitor through pulling her strings. This is how she eliminates the competition, and in the meantime, she has no problem screwing the dream of a subordinate who has done so much for her over so many years. Andy is so shocked to see her boss's ruthless and covert power games. She thinks that she would never do such thing when Miranda reminds her, "You've already done it," to Emily. Andy becomes uncomfortable and quits her position. Now, this is the area I have the most problem with this movie. In reality, if you really worked your butt off, where you've sacrificed your 24/7 to successfully rise in an industry, in a company that thousands of people would be dying to work for, working that hard to gain privilege, and then throwing all away because you don't want to be a bad person, this movie not only wanted to appeal to good girls, but designed to keep them oppressed. To see that somebody with Andy's background, her privileges, her education, competence, with that much desire and ambition to succeed, would simply give it all up because she wanted to continue to be a good person and didn't want to do what it takes to achieve success in capitalism, in competition, and climbing up the privilege ladder. Simply does not make sense. And that's why Hollywood, movies, and now we have K-drama as well. These stories that are meant to appeal to the masses are designed to not only validate your current mindset, or I don't mean you as a person, but our general mindset that is common in the world, which is a good girl mindset. Because validation sells a lot better than promoting change. Change that is uncomfortable. But mass media and feel-good stories serve another purpose: to keep people oppressed. Capitalism is a hierarchical model. If there are people at the top, there has to be people at the bottom. Andy is very much wrong to believe that she's a good person. You are very much wrong to believe that you're a good person, because the moment that we exist in capitalism, all of us have different levels of privileges. And if you're somebody watching these videos and you want to achieve more, that means naturally you're already oppressing somebody. That's what Andy experienced, and that's what she couldn't take. If I were Andy's coach, I would tell her that it doesn't matter that you give up this position and you get a job at some ratty old newspaper as a journalist. You are not a better person. Because the fact that you are already privileged, living in a privileged country, wearing clothing that was produced in developing countries, having furniture in your home that was produced in developing countries, that already means that we are also the oppressor. Who do you think made this shirt? If you are shopping at Zara, H&M, then probably there were children who made those outfits and the shoes that you're wearing, or they were underprivileged people, possibly mothers who had to work sickeningly long hours in bad conditions to produce those clothes that you probably wanted to buy it on sale. So where does the cutting cost in capitalism to create more profit, where is the cutting cost? It cuts cost in people, their lifestyle, their wellness, their health, their quality of life, to benefit whom? People like you and I and Andy. And of course, all of Andy's friends who keep wanting to be a good person by staying low on the power hierarchy or remaining as they are. But the truth is that none of us, nor those friends, nor Andy, would want to become the person who has to sew 10,000 shirts in a couple of days so that H&M can put it on sale, sell it for $20, $30 and still somehow make a profit. This is why trying to be a good person in capitalism, it doesn't exist. It's something that you say to yourself to make yourself feel better. It's a lot better for you to climb the privilege ladder anyway and do your best. Give back and be a good leader, essentially. That's going to make more impact than staying oppressed. But a movie that teaches people that concept is not going to do well, nor will it even make it to reach the masses, because what benefit would capitalism gain from teaching people, hey, you are being oppressed. Hey, you should actually fight for more privilege. Hey, you should really climb up the privilege ladder. Capitalism does not benefit from doing that. In that model, we need oppressed people to make it work. In that model, there are few people at the top who are enjoying the privileges, the free time, the luxuries, and then we have a different level of tiers of people who are workers. If The Devil Wears Prada were an actual real situation, that ending would not have been it. Nor would somebody with that much level of privilege and ambition would opt out of everything that she strived and worked for just because she didn't want to become that ruthless bad person. Now, what does this mean for you? You gotta become the bad bitch, because your carefulness, your fear of becoming more privileged, I don't want to be a bad person, I don't want to oppress people, is an is a completely self-sabotaging concept and the wrong mindset to embody. If you can't even take care of yourself, you cannot become a change maker. That's why the bad bitch is always a good capitalist. Let's start a discussion. Did you watch The Devil Wears Prada? What did you think of it? Tell me about everything I share, what your thoughts are. Drop them down in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to this channel. Also check out in the link in the description to see what it takes for you to reach the next level. There are many different options, including the Social Elegance Masterclass. We've got the Bad Bitch on Top book that you can also consider. And of course, you can binge watch many of my YouTube videos. Or you can also go on my Instagram and TikTok if you haven't yet, because I post fresh new videos there every single day. Before I forget, please join our free group, our free community group, where we host a free meet and greet every couple of weeks. It's right now on average every 2 weeks that we're meeting. Please join that group. I also have a ton of freebies in that group that you can tap into to go from the good girl to the bad bitch transition and to become an amazing capitalist. You want to be successful, you want more privilege, you want to become significant, you want to climb the privilege ladder in capitalism. And you need to do it in a nuanced manner, in a socially elegant manner, as a woman of color, minority. You gotta play the power games, understand the rules, play it overtly to get what you want. Thank you so much for watching. It's Julia Cha. See you in my next video.